Good morning, everybody. My name is Marcella Riddick.
I'm Stevie Gray.
And we're on the road. Thanks for being here today.
We are peaking today.
This has been a phenomenal morning.
I did not mean to say peak with the fucking peaks.
You're not funny. That's okay.
I'm sorry. I wasn't trying to do that at all. It's been incredible. It's incredible out here in Idaho.
We just stopped and had a little gas break cleanup situation. Walter got to run around in the grass.
Yeah, put our map down.
Yeah, we're in, what was it called?
We're in Stanley,
Idaho.
Which on the map I was like, Stanley. I was like, didn't know what to expect. We've gone through a lot of small towns in the last couple days through Nevada and now Idaho, and there are some interesting small towns along the way, but this one is really nice, and I'm wondering if it's just off season for the ski stuff, but that's probably why they're set up. We're going left.
Cool.
We're about to go through the Salmon Chalice National Forest, which
super exciting.
We slept last night in Boise National Forest, and I could not recommend a place any more highly to check out.
We were on the Ponderosa Pine Scenic Highway, and it was phenomenal. We are doing this podcast as a part of a 21-day road trip. We recorded an episode yesterday, and we said, we're not feeling it. It wasn't the right energy.
We'll release it, and you'll be able to watch how tired we are.
But today we woke up, or last night we got in, and we didn't have a plan. We were just kind of going for it.
We had no idea what we were going to post up for the night. We were just driving like, all right, does that turn out good? Does that turn out good?
And we found an absolutely phenomenal campsite.
And it went probably below 20 last night.
It was pretty cold.
It was really cold, and I have never been happier in my life.
It's true.
I was sleeping in the back of a car, freezing.
The sun was out until 9 o'clock last night. We were just hanging out. We stopped in Boise yesterday. Boise's an interesting place.
Went to
Trader Joe's. That is why we went to Boise. We went to Trader Joe's. Made some really awesome food last night.
Yeah, we've been putting together some weird concoctions that have worked really well. I should say, Marcella, I have just been watching these things happen.
We take turns being fire master. We're learning.
Yes. Let me double check
where we're going. I feel like we weren't supposed to go left, but because this is lower Stanley.
We were supposed to go.
We were supposed to go right.
Yes. Wait. We're going through Salmon. It's just a different way.
Oh, bruh.
How do you want to do this?
As long as we're going to the forest we need to go to, which is Flathead.
We're going to Flathead.
Yeah.
We're missing out on. I think we would have been driving by Salmon Chalice National Forest. So, wait. I think I might have just lied. 1 second. I could be completely wrong.
Dude.
No way. It's fine. We're going the right way.
We're going the right way.
We're cool. We're going this way.
We've been so spoiled with internet, and we got up in here yesterday.
And we had nothing.
Which has been pretty fun, honestly. But again, part of the intention of this trip is once our plans for the trip went to crap a couple of days ago, we just said, we're just going to go for it and see what happens.
We've just been stumbling into some of the most incredible life experiences I have ever had. And I'm happy. I want more of it. Let's keep stumbling into some cool stuff.
And I'm excited to share that with everybody. And so part of the reason why we're restarting the podcast is that I think we lost a little bit of that energy of why we were doing this.
Yeah. We were in Great Basin National Park, which, as you'll see, is absolutely incredible. But the footage, great. Vibes of us talking for 40 minutes. We were tired. And we talked about some interesting stuff, I'm sure. I don't really remember what we were talking about, but it didn't feel right. And so you mentioned in that one, but we went through Death Valley, and instead of recording a podcast in Death Valley, we just listened to Kendrick Lamar's new album because we hadn't listened to it. And I was like, man, we missed filming Death Valley, but it's like the vibes would have been weird for there too. So it's good to know that we can kind of pick and choose when we want to do this in a way that will be more enjoyable for literally everybody.
Everybody.
But we bathed in a river last night.
That was a different experience for Stevie Gray.
It was free. My feet were in pain as I was standing in it, and it was so much fun. Bucket list for sure moment, but truly incredible. The campsite was perfect.
We've seen so many landscapes in the past 3 hours, and then we stopped in Stanley and realized we have another 10 hours to drive. So
In the past 4 days, we've seen like
so much. We've gone from sea level to 10,000 feet to back to sea level. I don't even know what elevation we're at now.
We're at something where snow sticks. That's for sure.
We came out of, it looked like a solid 2 feet of snow at some point when we were driving through a different part of this forest. And so that was the Boise National Forest, and we're transitioning into another one.
Yeah.
What is it? Salmon chalice?
Chalice. I think that's definitely salmon. The second word I'm 90% sure is chalice. And something we wanted to do on the topic of not fully knowing information. Part of the intention of this podcast was to talk about history and natural landscapes and indigenous history. And something we were trying to figure out how to approach those topics, and what we've decided on is, instead of giving you a half-assed sentence-long explanation of indigenous history, let's just link some thorough stuff in the description and try not to stumble over our words, and let's talk about things that we can actually talk about, that we actually know about, so we're not pretending to be experts of things that we are not.
Yes.
So we'll have some really interesting stuff about this region in particular in the description for you to check out if you're interested. Highly recommend it. We've learned some cool stuff just pulling off the side of the road.
And reading things.
Yeah. The burn area was crazy.
Yeah, so a huge they called it the Loman. It was the Loman Fire of 1989, and apparently there's 2 days in July there was something over 300 lightning strikes that
started
caused
fires.
all kinds of fires and burned tens of thousands of acres.
And we could see it all. It's still, you could see where it all happened, which is, you can see all that. We were hiking this morning through all the new life that was sprouting up in these little trees. And
they call it a burn scar for a reason. It really feels like you're in a wound.
I had never walked through all of yesterday, never bathed in a river, never walked through a burned forest before. It was so unique. And after experiencing yesterday, Idaho was on the list of places we obviously want to check out, but I feel like
we had no idea.
Yeah, my mindset was more like, let's get to Glacier, and now I'm like, oh, this is great. So we've been pulling off all morning.
Every corner, every turn, every new glimpse, we've just been freaking out and cussing out. I've had 2 nature cries already today.
Yeah.
It's just been phenomenal. We've seen elk this morning. We saw deer this morning. All kinds of little critters.
I gotta see a moose, though.
Stevie really wants to see a moose.
I gotta see this moose. This one moose in particular.
One moose?
I know.
What's his name?
He or she is out there. But I'm so excited. This is interesting. We haven't transitioned into the salmon chalice forest
But also,
yet.
this is so different than anything we've seen already this morning. It's phenomenal.
Everything behind us looked completely different. So I'm excited to see what comes next.
I mean, it started with the giant mountains.
Yeah. Because these are so...
Like, what are we seeing?
It's a whole different valley up in here. But all incredible.
There's lots of people rafting.
Yeah, and kayaking.
We resisted buying a fishing pole.
We bought a fishing net.
We bought a fishing net instead.
Which, I was thinking about it, and a fishing pole would require us to sit there for hours and hours and hours, and because we have so much ground to cover, probably not the move. But a fishing net,
if we just find like a cool spot and we can swoop one up,
that'd be cool. So
if Stevie guts a fish, it will be documented.
That would be another bucket list item. We'll see how I feel about it.
Look at these colors.
Truly incredible.
We've been talking about how we've been almost going back in time because of the seasons. And so we started in Los Angeles on Sunday. This is day 4 of our trip. It was 85 degrees when we left LA. We stayed in the Eastern Sierras and it was still pretty warm there.
It was nearly 100 degrees during the daytime when the sun was up. And then
we went into Death Valley where it was still 100 degrees.
We started this whole experience seeing the lunar eclipse too.
Yes.
Incredible.
Phenomenal. But then we were in snow and it looks like the snow is coming back up.
Yep. I'm sure once we get into the forest, wherever the official marker is, it's about to look quite incredible.
I'm really excited, but I've also been enjoying the cold.
Yes. This is what I wanted, and I didn't know it was going to happen on this trip, but it being this cold this time of year is perfect. And we're on the off season, which we were talking about earlier.
Not a lot of people out.
It's perfect time to be up in these places.
We might eat those words in 3 days going into Glacier.
We'll see.
We'll
see. But the fact that these roads are dry, but there's still
really nice.
snow is perfect because it's safe, it's beautiful, it's empty. I'm ready for it all. And we're on day 4. We keep talking about, like last night, again, I felt like we were peaking. It was crazy. It was like, this is the greatest experience ever. And
this is just the beginning.
Yeah, I got that feeling of sadness, like, oh man, it's going to end. And I was like, we are literally not even close to halfway through this experience.
And I think that excitement about life is something I wish everybody could have at some point in time. I wish
Whatever
we could wake up every day.
Everybody needs it. I
think it's the outdoors, but I think it's the outdoors. I think it's just being in nature. And we were talking about the difference between nature and culture, which I think is really interesting. If we think about culture as, I don't know what the actual formal definition of culture is, but culture,
we'll link it in the description.
Stop. But culture being how humans interact with spaces and places and other people is culture, right? Mm-hmm. Nature being the stuff that happens around us, the intersection of those and what happens when people interact with nature, that's magic right there.
And form those traditions that last thousands of years.
And so I was making fun of that we saw this multi-generational family getting out of their car to go kayak, and I said, that's so weird to me, that's so foreign to me.
And everyone looks so happy. Like
everybody
their grandparents
was fake.
Standing there,
it
like
looks fake.
The classic like arms turned, like, these are my grandkids about to go kayaking.
But the intersection of people and nature, I don't know.
It's incredible. And we are nature, and we've talked about that before, but humans are almost, in the way that we have evolved as a species, both culturally and, I guess, scientifically, it does feel like we're aliens sometimes, where it's like, I can't really survive in this forest, just like the other things in this forest can, yet so much of me is the same as the things that I'm seeing. And that, as you said, that intersection is absolutely incredible to experience.
And part of that is being born in LA. And I remember when we first moved to Colorado, all we could talk about was LA because we love LA. And obviously coming back home in the pandemic changed that relationship with home.
Yeah. There's not a lot of green space.
There's not a lot of green space, and that was something we thrived in, and we love being in nature. And so finding and defining what that means for us is really special. But growing up in a city, the connection with nature, I feel like
wasn't there.
There's an opportunity when we're older, to develop a relationship with nature that's a little bit different than somebody who grew up in this. And so finding and appreciating it is
Seeking
pretty
it
cool.
Out, turning your car into a
freaking
house,
camper.
Yeah, and going out and looking for this stuff it's been incredible.
So basically what happened was, what's today? Wednesday? Tuesday? Wednesday.
Yep.
Last Friday, Stevie and I graduated.
Yes.
From the University of Southern California.
And I felt ill.
Oh yeah, Stevie was mad sick. Not with COVID,
which was the most unfortunate part, because I was like,
how is that the most?
Not kind of. This last year, everyone's like, or last 2 years, everyone's like, oh my gosh, I want to get COVID, and we got it in January. And the anxiety of getting sick surrounding COVID is a lot to unpack. And so I was like, oh man, I'm sick again. I was like, oh shoot, like I might have COVID again. And I didn't, but then I was like, man, now I'm just sick. Like, what? It's like, damn, like what?
But it was also the culmination of a very long semester and
very long 6 years
of finishing up school. And I think people, we don't get to talk about that a lot, of like, what is the experience of finishing school? And I think for us, a part of it was really getting to this trip. And so on Thursday night, we were graduating on Friday. On Thursday night, we completely had to change our entire trajectory for this trip. And I think that having to do that adjustment so quick and just learning how to do it on the fly gave me I'll speak for myself, gave me so much more confidence in us.
And it's so much more of our own trip now.
Yeah.
Like, it feels less like, okay, we're going here because we need to be here on the map. Like, tonight, we don't really know where we're sleeping tonight.
We have no idea where we're
sleeping.
sleeping.
We don't know if it's going to be snowed out. But I am fully confident that we are prepared enough to that when we pull up somewhere like we did yesterday, we'll figure it out.
And it's a shift because we have like a 17-page document with Google Maps of where we're going to stay and what we're doing each day and where we need to do gas and blah, blah, blah. And now we're just like,
I think part of that Google Doc experience, though, was like talking about getting through school.
Mm-hmm.
School is a culmination of ton of things. We've been in school since we were probably 3, and so it's defined our entire lives until this point. But we were so ready to be done with school for however many reasons that this trip was like getting us through the semester almost. Like I was working on a Google Doc every day in my free time because that was where all of my kind of excitement was lying.
And it's not that planning is bad. Planning is great, and being prepared is great. We could only have this experience if we were prepared.
And this car situation, the way it is, we've set it up and built the platform, is an example of that to some extent.
Yeah, so probably last year at this time, I started watching all these videos of people overlanding and figuring out how do we do that. Because I grew up camping. Stevie didn't grow up camping.
I grew up in a concrete box, that's what I say, that was built in the 40s. And I loved it. I love that place. I've said that enough. Park La Brea, great place, but no access to nature at all. There's some grass outside.
Some grass outside. But finding the middle ground of what's comfortable for Gray, but gets outside enough for Riddick has been super fun. And so last year started planning, what could I do to this tank? I love this car. This is McLovin. 2013 RAV4, love of my life. This thing has gotten us many a miles. I'm gonna go to freaking Hot Springs, bro.
Yeah. So
what? That is hot off the ground.
So we pulled over earlier. There was just this like steaming thing running into this giant river. It was magnificent. And I guess there's some more of that. We'll probably run into more.
Dude, that's cool.
Yeah, but there's just a bunch of hot springs all along. Yeah, I'm like, we can't really get off the podcast.
I know.
It's going to be tempting to stop so many times.
I'm going to blame y'all. Dang.
We can potentially go to some turnouts to be like, check this out, but we can't really get disconnected from all this, unfortunately.
So we started planning the car like a year ago. And so what we did is we used to sleep in the back, seats down. We had a little blow-up mattress. We brought Walter on one trip, but it was a little overwhelming.
Yeah, for all of us. Mostly
and
me.
So wow, look at these rocks. So we started car camping more and more, started getting more and more comfortable, and we're like, okay, how do we reach peak efficiency? That's been like our little phrase for like, how do we make this
we don't want a big cooler,
best.
We don't want to bring too much gear, too many clothes, too much food.
We started bringing less and less food. We started organizing things a little bit better, consolidating gear, finding out what gear we actually need.
Wow. What even is this?
I don't know. It says it's a historical site. Dang, I should have pulled.
That's okay. That's not really a good like
Sunbeam Village.
I was like, the GoPro can't look down into what this is, but check out Sunbeam Village. Apparently,
this is Yankee Fork Salmon River. Wow, phenomenal. But now we have this platform. So last Friday we graduated from school. The Friday before that is when I took my last final, and then we spent the next 48 hours building this platform.
Yeah.
And so this platform, some plywood, there was a really cool video that happened to have the exact same car, 2013 RAV4, Go Squad.
I think we mentioned this in the to be released later episode, but it's almost like, I feel like we put together a Lego set where it's like we already have the instructions, we didn't like come up with the whole schematic, but we did make some adjustments.
Yeah, we made it a little taller.
Went to the container store. Marcella got some really cool baskets that slide under, and we have like different compartments for different kind of things. Like there's a gear compartment where it has like lights and knives and all the like fire emergency stuff. And
instead of an unboxing, it's like an uncar boxing situation that we can do. We are also getting more gear on Thursday, but anywho, we started building it, and we built it with our hands. Like we had never really used a drill like this before. Never really built anything like this.
Experience at all, and it's
we
not
staple
perfect,
guns,
but it really is. I'm surprised with what we were able to pull off.
I'm so proud of us.
Yeah, it was really fun too. We, in the theme of Riddick and Gray, our company and whatnot, it is exciting every time we try something new together and realize how much fun it is, even if it's not easy, and even if neither of us have no experience in any sector. Like whatever we're about to do with this fishing net, it may be really unsuccessful, but it's gonna be a ton of fun to figure out how unsuccessful it can be.
Even just playing with fire and like learning how fire works and running around in forest. Oh my gosh, I found a bone this morning, everybody.
A vertebrae, yeah. You found a big vertebrae.
It was big.
We're gonna have to ID it somewhere somehow, but
can we put that on iNaturalist?
Maybe. There's an app. Did we talk about this in the very first one? There's an app called iNaturalist. Check it out. It's basically a real-life Pokédex in your phone. It turned my experience with my phone into a completely different thing, because now I'm not capturing the world to just like put pictures in a hard drive forever. I'm actually saying like, hey, I saw this species in this forest, and IDing it for the rest of the world and scientific community to understand the movement of different species and ecosystems. And so it's a really cool app. I would highly recommend it. It makes real life just as exciting as a video game, I guess you can say. And so it's a great kind of buy-in if you're not super outdoorsy, to be like, hey, I saw a bug today. I don't know what bug that is. I want to find out. Let me take a picture, and someone will ID it for me. And so highly recommend it, but we'll see if we might be able to put bones on there, because that would be a great outlet for your bone collecting.
I love bones.
Yeah. That's a big vertebrae.
But my rule for bones in this trip specifically is that the bone has to be smaller than my hand / fit in my hand to bring home with us.
Yes.
So
Marcella, when she worked for the Forest Service, found moose antlers, and a perfect set too, which is, as you said, not likely. I wouldn't know. Found a cow pelvis, which was humongous, a cow femur.
Also huge. I think we kept that one.
There's a singular bird bone in this.
I think it's a rabbit bone, first of all, but it's also not in the car anymore.
Oh, really?
Is it in there?
I swear I saw it like yesterday.
Okay, cool.
But Marcella likes collecting bones.
I do.
We talked about this the very first time, carcasses and stuff, but talking more about the identification of bones, it's really fun, and it's not just gross, which I like to joke about it being gross, like your seal scapula and whatnot, but it's really exciting to go into a forest, and like we did in the Burton Forest today, and see like what lives and navigates this forest every day. Who lives here?
And so when we saw the deer off the side of the road, I was like trying to look at the size of the necks of those deer to see if it was a deer vertebra or something else. What do you got to say, Walter?
Walter just huffed. Yeah.
What are you huffing at, bro?
We always forget to introduce him because he can't speak for himself.
So this is Walter Gray. Somebody did DM us asking us to talk about our Walter story.
Yeah.
So this
it's
is
related
Walter
to
Gray.
this experience.
It is. Okay, you wanna start the Walter story?
Sure. So we were going on a friend outing one day to IKEA and the Pasadena Humane Society, just to hang out, just to look at cute dogs, whatever. I have never had a dog in my entire life until this point.
And everybody was like, oh my God, Marcella, don't get a dog, because I love dogs.
We were just about to start our sophomore years at Colorado State. It was 2017, that fall, in August. We pull up to this Humane Society, I'm like, Marcella, we're not getting a dog. Blah, blah, blah. We get in there, I look at every freaking dog in this place. I'm like, they're cute dogs, whatever, everyone's barking. And then I find this in the very back of the Humane Society, this thing that looks like an elf, like Dobby from Harry Potter, that's standing and flapping his front arms and standing on his back two legs, making no sound. And that was Walter. And I was immediately like, this is my dog.
And so I'm over here looking at dogs, and all of a sudden Stevie's like, Marcella, I have to get this dog. And I said, excuse me?
Yep. I pulled one of those things where it's like, don't do it, and then I did it.
And so we started calling the parentals. That was a big-ass bird! Holy shit! That was so cool. I saw a nest. So big birds of prey, we'll put nests on top of light posts because, nature and humanity, all that good stuff. And I saw the nest and then saw this giant-ass hawk next to it. Oh, man.
Marcella's really good at spotting birds. A lot of what she did in the Forest Service was spotting birds.
Yes.
So I have to give myself some credit at not being great at spotting birds because I don't have that kind of experience, but I'm also not great at looking up.
Yes.
So I have been learning to look for birds in the last few drives that we've gone on. But back to the Walter story.
So Walter. So we started
this.
calling our parents, and we were like, okay. So my mom was in Australia at the time, and she was like, "What do you mean you're about to get a dog?" Stevie's parents were like, "Stevie, what do you mean Stevie doesn't know? Like, you don't know how to. You don't what?"
Yeah, it was a bad idea. It was like we got lucky with this dog, basically.
And so we said, okay, Stevie, you know what? Sleep on it. We're gonna meet this dog. Sleep on it. If you still want this dog, we'll go back tomorrow and we'll figure it out. And so we went back the next day. We were like, God dang it. Like, we gotta get this dog. So we were like, okay, we signed all the paperwork, put the dog away. We went to Disneyland, picked him up the next day.
The part of this where it's like made no sense at all is we had an entire road trip planned.
Our first road trip, actually.
Our first road trip to go from California to Colorado for college, through the Grand Canyon, which is a complete detour.
Yes.
It's very out of the way, by the way. And now we had to factor this dog into the entire experience.
We hustled him in and out of hotels. We had him in all kinds of bags.
We had his crate basically sitting where he is now with the door open, and he would walk out and stand here in this very car and look out with us, turn around, go back and sleep the rest of the time. And again, his temperament is so
Perfect.
great.
He doesn't bark, he doesn't whine.
And so he just chilled with us, and it was a great bonding experience to kind of get to meet him and get to know him. And it's really part of this experience of bringing him again is to do that again, because we haven't really had that family time. During the pandemic, it was easy because we were home all the time. Once we started going back in person to school, we didn't get to spend all day with him anymore.
Yeah.
And so it's nice that now that our place in Catalina, we'll be able to bring him out to the island with us. And right now we can bring him on this experience with us and kind of warm back up into that lifestyle that we missed.
Yeah. So Walter's our boy. We love him.
He's a great dude.
Are you being good back there?
And I think he was a great dog. Again, complete luck. He's a great dog for somebody that had never had a dog before.
That's true, because I spent that whole first weekend like, this is Stevie's dog, this is Stevie's dog, this is Stevie's dog. Oh my goodness, you see the deer down by the river?
Wow.
That's so cool. Oh man.
Whole family.
Whole family. We
Yeah,
love
no
families.
Yeah. Incredible.
So yes, that's Walter. But you mentioned Catalina.
Yes, and we talked about it a little bit on the first one. We can.
But a lot has changed since we did talk about that.
Yeah, so we're going to be living on the island all summer.
We get back to Los Angeles on a Friday, and we leave to move into our first adult apartment on Catalina Island that next Monday.
Yep, and I'll be commuting from Catalina Island to the mainland
Just a little bit.
2 days a week, which would be cool. The way the schedule works right now is actually perfect, and so we're going to be working the same position, overlapping the weekends where I'll be working too, and then Marcel will be working the other 5 days a week.
Yeah. The Wrigley Institute for Environmental Sciences. Good
Environmental
stuff.
Studies?
Studies.
Wrigley Institute on Catalina Island. Linked in the description below.
I feel like we need a Post-it to keep track of the things we gotta link.
That's fine. We're gonna have to we'll beta test every episode and be like, all right. We'll have a list of links to post, but we'll have them in order to. We're talking about kind of organizing the videos the way you can with YouTube to have topics broken up by bracket. So for example, there'd be the Walter topic that's in its own little bracket from today.
With the slight insert of, oh my goodness, something Marcella yelled at about in the middle of Walter's story.
Deer, whatever. But man, so we got how many hours?
I don't know, dude.
Oh, 20%. No service. We got apparently 9 hours and 14 minutes. We are gonna. So
how are we gonna get out this forest? I
don't know, but something about yesterday that was quite interesting that we learned is the sun was out until
9 p.m.
Yeah, 9 p.m. And so we had had dinner, set him up in the car, set up the bed and everything, and we were like, "Do you want to just go run in the forest for a little bit?" Because the sun was still out, and so we did. It was really fun, but it was nice to be fresh too. We had freshly cleaned and all that kind of stuff.
Freshly fed.
Yeah, freshly fed. But yeah, so we're pulling up to Glacier apparently at 9:20.
Glacier? No, this is
Flathead, which is kind of the valley
right
a little bit south
Glacier.
of Glacier, yeah. And so we'll see what we pull up to. Should be an interesting learning experience for all.
It definitely didn't say 12 hours yesterday.
No, it said 6.5.
So what did we do?
We didn't have service, so I'm guessing the phone was being weird. We don't have service.
I still
now.
Don't believe that we're on the right road right now, but
we're
is all
on a
relative.
road that is going that way, and we're gonna see some cool stuff.
What direction are we even driving? Are we supposed to be driving this direction?
Yeah, we are.
Okay,
we're driving the way it looks on the map is totally fine.
Cool.
So I know this is a way, may not be the original way, but this is the way we wanted to go for sure, going through this San Marcos National Forest, which we haven't even pulled up into yet. We might not pull up into in this video, which is the most hilarious thing to me of all, because we introduced this video saying what's up guys, I'm going to San Marcos, and we're not even there yet.
No.
So yeah.
Plot twist, the end of this video is that Stevie actually got us lost and we have to backtrack the whole time. But again, loss is relative because we're just finding cool places and hanging out, and that's all I really care about.
And the best part, again, is that preparation piece. If you are prepared to post up anywhere on an experience like this, you can. Nearly. We talked about BLM land in the archived for now Great Basin videos.
I don't think we need to talk about the Great Basin. I think that should stay in the archive, maybe.
God, but it's such a great view.
It's beautiful.
And so I think we just have to release it and be like, this one might have been kind of a dud, but here it is anyway. Because again, being fully transparent, not every day of anyone's life is perfect.
No.
We're not trying to come on camera and pretend like, hey guys, this is the most amazing thing, and then start fighting when the cameras come off. Like, this is how we are experiencing this right now. Like, I truly feel amazing.
Yeah.
And so I think.
And yesterday, it's not that it wasn't amazing. We
woke up in a funk.
Yeah.
We saw turkey. Wild
was cool.
turkey. Great Basin, really cool national park.
Yeah.
Only national park in Nevada. So check it out for sure. But we woke up feeling a little funky and then kind of settled into that funk as we were slowly coming into Idaho, saw some snowy mountains in the back, and that's when I was like, oh man,
buddy.
there's some cool stuff coming up. Pulled into Boise. Boise was interesting.
Yeah.
It was a place. And there was Trader Joe's.
Oh no, I gotta sneeze. Sorry. Okay.
Blow up that mic.
Dude, look at this hill.
Crazy.
What the heck? What?
But we had a $100 gift card to Trader Joe's from somewhere.
It was from your mom for Christmas.
Oh, thanks, Mom. But speaking of moms, Vivian Riddick got me this sheep. We call it the sheep, but this Patagucci hooded jacket? Is it technically a jacket? What do you call this? What is this called? What kind
it's
of
a jacket.
Okay.
A fleece?
A fleece.
I think
That's
it's just
what
a jacket, bro.
Okay. Fleece jacket. But thank you, Vivian Riddick, because this is perfect for this trip. Yeah. I was so comfy last night when it got cold, and this morning when it was really cold.
Part of Stevie not spending a lot of time in the outdoors is that he gets to get all the new gear.
That's true, yeah. I get to get, I always hated shopping for clothes as a kid, and being the youngest of 3, I got a lot of stuff from my older brother, who's 4 years older than me, so it's like, there's a bit of time and a lot of different phases of clothes that I was able to inherit, which was great. And so I never really cared about as much fashion or shopping or whatever, because I was like, I'll just wear what Danny was wearing 4 years ago, basically. And so I was always a little bit behind. I was wearing cargo shorts and skateboarding attire well into when I probably shouldn't have been
Stevie's
anymore.
Fashion has
evolved significantly.
Yeah. Ooh, ponies.
Nice. But
entering Chalice Experimental Stewardship Area. I don't know what that means.
Link in the description below.
Dude, I hate you. But yeah, Stevie gets to get all new gear. So he's got these fancy North Face pants because he's a weird-shaped human. He got the fancy Patagucci.
Finding pants that fit as a 5'8" human is a struggle. My proportions are completely whack. I've got some weird jeans up in here. Mm-hmm. But when it works well. And it's been fun to kind of, as I've discovered clothes that I want to get for this experience that will also fit the summer in Catalina, it's been nice to get stuff that actually makes sense and isn't just I want new clothes because I want new clothes. It's no, I want new clothes because I don't want to freeze my ass off in Glacier National Park.
I got to get new shoes though, and that was primo for me because I'd been running my boots down to the ground.
Dank.
I love my new shoes.
They're really cool. I'm excited for you.
They're basically basketball high tops, but for nature.
Yeah, Adidas just said,
sure.
This is a market segment that we haven't tapped too much into. Slap some hiking stuff on the bottom.
It was pretty sick.
Yeah. They've done that with skateboarding too. That was something I used to be on the topic of fashion and skateboarding and bad early 2000s skateboarding fashion. As a young boarder, I was always very opposed, and I think in the mid-2000s a lot of the skateboarding community was opposed to non-skate brands making skate shoes. And so you have your Etnies and your DC and your Osiris kind of early 2000s top of the chain skate brands, and then you had Adidas and Nike. Nike SBs were the first big giant push for professional skate shoes and skate attire. But that stuff is great. And like Adidas skate shoes are really good skate shoes.
Because the technology is there and they have the money to do that, even though they're like horribly unsustainable brands.
Yeah, and so now, and it's an interesting conversation bringing it back to sustainability as always. But it's that constant struggle of, do you dismantle the system and start fresh, or do you work within the system? And I think there's positives and negatives to either approach. It's never going to be one or the other, but it's thinking about companies like Shell that like own...
I was like the gas company?
They own global energy to some extent. Mm-hmm. Do we hyper-focus on them and say, use your resources to be more sustainable and fund renewable energy because you have the resources to do so? Or do we fund different businesses that started sustainably and will grow into bigger kind of world leaders? And it's always, that is a plane.
What?
The back of a plane smashed into the rock. But like not with debris around it, just on purpose.
Cool.
We're at the Sawmill Station, where gas is the
same price.
Affordable price of $4.56. Probably here that is wild, but for us it's like, it's not $7. No way. So that's pretty cool. But yeah, it's like companies like Adidas are pushing these new sustainability quotas, I guess you can say, for fashion.
Yeah.
And so I have a pair of Stan Smiths that are like, they're called the Clean Classics, and they're like made from all recycled stuff. The sole of the shoe is made from cork, which is actually really nice. I was surprised. I thought like I might be taking a hit on like the quality of my walking experience, but I've walked really far in those shoes.
A lot of miles.
Yeah, and it's a beautiful mountain. But I've walked a lot of miles in those shoes, and so it's hard because although I would say support smaller businesses, to some extent we always have to make some kind of sacrifice when trying to be more sustainable. And so sometimes you just have to buy the stuff that the big sellers are doing. Again.
I mean, even if you take I'm wearing a lot of North Face right now because that's what I bought back in the day. And Stevie's got his new Patagucci on.
My first ever Patagonia branded clothing piece.
And when you think about the history of those brands, like those two dudes knew each other. Those two dudes were friends. I don't know their names off the top of my head.
Link in the description below.
But I studied them. There's a big case study that we did in one of my classes about the differences between Patagonia and North Face and their different approaches to sustainability. But really, these two dudes, I'm watching a bird eat roadkill. These two dudes wanted to start an outdoors company. They were outdoorsmen, wanted to create more things for outdoorsmen. What the hell is in front of me? This is incredible. What the hell did I just drive into? What? What is this? What is this? This is incredible. Look at that.
Wow.
What? So anyway, they started selling more and more outdoors gear for outdoorsmen, and built these two companies. And both companies have very different approaches to what sustainability means and how they're contributing and blah, blah, blah. Reality is both of them are massive brands contributing to a lot of fashion waste over time. And
because
each of them,
hiking outdoorsy, I mean, this is to me, one might not agree, but I love the fact, I like my sheepy look, and I feel pretty and stuff. And so a lot of people may buy into brands like that just for the fashion piece. Like people in LA, like I'm not going to be able to wear this like 95% of the time in Los Angeles County.
But you also probably aren't going to buy another one in the next 20 years.
No.
And so the differences in approach to sustainability when it comes to longevity versus quality versus all the things, and then going back, of course, to that conversation of accessibility is huge. Because Vivian Riddick spent $200 on that jacket?
Dang, just dropping all the deets.
But I'm saying, everybody can, I know, you can literally look it up. But, that jacket was expensive, and not everybody can afford a $200 fleece jacket for graduation, you know?
I'm truly, so excited to keep wearing this for years to come.
But Patagonia is arguably the more sustainable of the two brands. Yeah. And what they do for the planet, they've been able to do a lot of good, even though they're still now contributing to clothing waste and all that good stuff. So again, when we're talking about balance and scale and pros and cons, it's all gray area. It's never one company good, that company bad. Except for a lot of companies are bad.
Yeah, there's... And it's another question, right, of like, when it comes into sustainability, even the idea of like, it's up to the person to recycle and not the system to stop making plastic waste. That gray area gets really confusing for if you're just trying to live your day-to-day life.
Hold on. We are driving through Clayton, and it just said the population was 7.
I believe it. So we talked about this, Great Basin way behind us, but there are 3 million people in the entire state of Nevada.
Yeah.
There are a lot of small towns all throughout Nevada that we drove through, because Las Vegas probably houses a lot of those 3 million people. Like the surrounding area to Las Vegas and then Reno are probably the most populous city centers in the state. And so a lot of Nevada is just towns like that, where you've got like 7 people, you have some kind of historic structure that may or may not be taken care of, and that's about it. And like the only food is gas station food, and that's kind of probably how a lot of the commerce happens in the town, is gas stations. Yep. And so talking about accessibility, food deserts are a huge thing to talk about in terms of sustainability, because as we learned in Nevada, 50% of the state's water went to agriculture, and so all of these natural habitats that are these high Sierra deserts, they aren't supposed to be completely barren. There's still supposed to be water running through them. It's still a desert, but it's not as lush as something like out here. But a lot of the state's resources have gone to agriculture, and so a lot of these small towns are kind of at the mercy of people coming through and buying gas effectively. Yeah. And so there's not a lot talking about being sustainable. It's like, how do you tell someone who lives in a town of 7, like, hey, you should only be eating fresh, whole foods, when it's like this? If you just happen to be born in that town or around that town, you don't have access to that. And so...
But again, different relationships with nature and sustainability, because I bet you that those 7 people in Clayton have a much lower carbon footprint than I do.
Exactly. It's tough. It's a lot of challenges that we face in the 21st century that are all very interconnected and not as simple as saying good, bad.
And we're definitely not experts.
Not at all. And never will be. I hope I continue to learn more crazy, awesome stuff the rest of my life, because I have so many questions, and I feel like the more questions I get answered, like the more questions after that I have. And so it's been fun on an experience like this to be a little bit more research and learning oriented than just let's just stop in a bunch of places and look at pretty scenery. Like, why is this the way it is in every aspect is really important, because some of the scenery that we've seen along the way has been like this for thousands of years. Millions of years. Like Death Valley, something that was comforting driving through Death Valley was seeing it and saying, wow, if everything on Earth changed and every species went extinct, this would probably still be here the exact way it is right now. And that, to some extent, for me, is comforting. I don't know why, but it's important to, I don't know, think about Earth in that way sometimes. Of like, we have only been here for this long. Mm-hmm. And so our impact has been huge in just the last 150 years, which is really important to talk about and know, because in 100 years, our population went from little over 1 billion to now
7.
Now nearly 8 billion, and we'll probably get to 10 billion very quickly in this century. And so the way that we consume the planet's resources has scaled faster than any of us can truly comprehend. And so it's existentially crazy to think about, kind of scary and overwhelming, but more important than ever to think about.
Definitely. And obviously the little things are important, even though they're not going to make this massive difference. So, example, to start 2022, I said I'm going to throw away all of my makeup. That's just like a part of my consumption that I'm taking out for me.
And you don't consume that much makeup at all compared to like a lot of people.
But I'm saying taking it out of my consumption and like, again, reducing my bathroom products and all that stuff isn't going to fix and change the existential stuff that's going to happen. But when we're talking about little things that can make a big difference, if say everybody in Los Angeles reduced one plastic thing in their bathroom, like what that could do over the next generation. It might not quote unquote be enough, but it would make a difference.
It's better than just saying, well, it's not going to change with me alone, so I'm just not going to do it. And
because the accountability piece for the larger companies and pushing that is definitely important. But
vote with your dollars.
Voting with dollars and doing what you can for yourself.
It's an unfortunate reality that it's not really in our immediate control to just say, this is all dumb, let's stop doing it.
Yeah.
But if one of the only things you can do is vote with your dollars and say, you know what, I'm going to buy compostable dog poop bags and pay an extra $1 instead of getting plastic that'll sit in a landfill for literally longer than I will live, that's a change.
We literally look like we're on a different planet. I don't understand what these hills are. I want to know everything.
Yep. Nevada was very Martian in a lot of places, in the way that the red rocks were. And this...
We were looking at caps of snow like 20 minutes ago.
Yeah.
It wasn't actually 20 minutes ago.
We're still not in the Salmon Chalice National Forest, I don't think, so that's hilarious.
We saw Salmon and Chalice as different towns on a sign, so maybe we're getting there.
There are probably salmon in these very waters.
Oh, I think it's finally coming.
The National Forest?
No, my sneeze.
Bless you.
Thank you.
We're at 47 minutes.
But we started a little bit into that 47 minutes.
That's true. We probably can go maybe until an hour and see. I'm feeling this one.
Yeah.
God, this is... And again, talking...
But also, we're driving through all this, talking about what we're doing for the planet. And I'm trying to figure out what in the hell is happening.
What are they watering here?
What are we watering? What is growing here? And it literally looks like grass.
So let's address the elephant in the room.
Water?
Oh, yeah, shoot. But we're from LA.
Yes.
Los Angeles, California should not really exist in the capacity that it does. And we've talked about this a lot because I like to joke that, like, in terms of history and the movement of peoples and, like, how my family just happened to come together and, like, Walter happened to exist, like, by definition, I feel like I shouldn't exist sometimes. LA is kind of the same way, and just being born in a place that probably shouldn't exist in terms of sustainability is an interesting thing to tackle because we freaking love LA. And so something we're trying to do with the company is work on some contract work to restore the LA River, which I'm going to speak into existence now, both for accountability and if anyone ever happens to watch this, please hit us up because I'm really interested in making some kind of communications material to get people in Los Angeles hyped about restoring our giant river that was covered in concrete by the army in like the 20s. So, yes. But part of LA being unsustainable is water. We import 90% of our water, which is a huge problem when a lot of places that house the United States imported and exported water are reaching their lowest capacities in history. So water is huge, and water is the best resource and the only resource that can truly sustain anything on this planet.
It's true. Because when we're talking about how the state of Nevada only has 3 million people and Los Angeles County has 4 million.
Or Los Angeles City has 4 million. Los Angeles County has nearly 10 million people.
Are you joking?
Yep. And I was talking about this with a friend.
Look at that rock. Sorry.
That's cool. That's a cool rock. But we were talking about this with a friend, and when thinking about the census, he was like, I didn't remember getting the memo for a census. He's like, I'm not on that census. There's probably millions more people that aren't on that census either.
That's a little dramatic.
But
millions?
I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of...
I think there are other things that go into population count besides the census.
I'm assuming that they average and estimate for uncounted people as well. But 10 million people in Los Angeles County, more than the entire state of Nevada, and probably more than some other states. Like Wyoming, I think, is...
Wyoming is the least populous.
Yeah. At least it was when we were in the 5th grade. But it's important to figure out some of those grander problems as we move into the next couple decades in this century, which are bound to be just as wild as the 2020s have started.
Yeah.
And all of the decades in the last 30 years have been. I think there's something about access to information and social media where a lot of people are kind of going, wow, everything's crazy right now, when in reality everything has been crazy for the last century.
We just haven't been able to have that communal experience.
Yep. It's basically, I mean, since the Industrial Revolution, human daily life has changed so significantly that when looking at footage, and it's crazy to say that we can look at footage from the early 1900s, but I could never understand what it was like to live in that era of human history because it is so vastly different from now.
Definitely.
Whereas somebody that was living from, let's say, like the 1700s, someone born in 1778 and lived until the mid 1800s, a lot of stuff changed for sure.
Yeah.
But
bro,
percentage stuff that changed in comparison to, oh, we figured out flight, now we're on the moon. Like, that's like we left our planet in that quickly since we figured out how to get off of the ground on our planet in 1 century. Those kinds of changes are so existential that they used to keep me up at night, and now I just think they're really cool.
But speaking of things that shouldn't exist, like, we wouldn't exist. Our little multicultural, multiracial asses, like, would not exist.
Yeah.
Like,
and
more than 50. Like, we could not exist other than this time period.
yeah, the movement of human beings across continents over the course of hours instead of years and months over seas.
Decades.
Yeah, it's again, existential thoughts are constantly filling up my brain space where I should be thinking about day-to-day activities. But we've talked a lot about a question we got on our Let's Talk About questions was, talk about your kids and marriage and all the future plans. Or we're like, no kids right now.
No kids right
But
now.
on the topic of kids, something we've thought a lot about is our kids' experiences being multiracial kids of multiracial parents.
Kids. Yeah.
And what does it look like to be like second-gen multiracial? In a city like Los Angeles, probably already happened a few times, but just in general, how do you identify when you can't just check a box and say, well, I'm mostly white or I'm mostly something else?
Oh, look, there's a cow!
Oh, wow, that's a big cow.
There's just a cow
That's a
outside of the
big
road.
boy.
Sorry.
That was actually a girl, because that wasn't a bull.
That was not a bull.
Let's
Good
fix
call.
our terminology.
Look at you.
Let's
Look at
fix
you.
our terminology.
Anywho.
Yeah.
Yes. Second gen asterisks multiracial children.
Yeah, because there'll be a lot of things, and depending on phenotype, how they get identified by others.
Dude, where are we driving into? Do you see this?
Yeah. It feels very Nevada-y almost. There's some, I mean, again, Marcel was saying, as we said before.
Booty, look at the little booty!
Oh, wow. But Marcel was saying before, borders are fake.
Yes.
In terms of a lot of things.
I was like, that's an entire episode in itself.
Yeah, but for regions and seeing things where I say like, oh, this looks like Nevada. Marcel yesterday was like, well, no shit, dude. Like, this is how like it works geographically. But yeah, how our kids are identified by others,
Yeah.
it's going to be probably not a great experience for them. And it's something that we have to actively think about, and how as parents someday do we approach that conversation or set of conversations.
Because people don't really know how to identify us either. I feel like, big picture, Stevie and I are both pretty racially ambiguous.
I'm off-brand white, as we say, where it's
Yeah.
like, no one's gonna not say I'm white, ever.
But people are gonna
But
be
in
mad
that Trader
confused.
Joe's in Boise yesterday, dang, I looked quite different. I was like, wow. But it's something that we've had to think about a lot, and so the question of our kids, that is one of the many things we have to think about for our kids. And it's exciting to think about how unique of an experience our kids may have, but that is hard to have an experience so unique where you don't have anyone to really connect with,
Yeah.
maybe in your day-to-day at school. Like,
But I think things are changing. I think
They are.
even when we think about, again, our experiences in school, since we have a lot of those,
yeah,
the different universities we went to had very different approaches to diversity. And we'll just
Yeah.
like leave that statement
cultural
as it is.
spaces.
But the cultural spaces are very different, and there was only one school that had a multiracial cultural center.
Yep.
But I see that changing significantly in the next 2 decades.
Inherently, we're
It has
living
to.
we're living in the most multiracial period in history, just based off of all of the factors.
It's our time to shine. But and it's been a very difficult existence, for lack of a better way to put it, and that doesn't negate the privileges that come with the layers of colorism,
yeah.
the layers of access, the layers of socioeconomic status, all the things that allow Stevie and I to have the incredible privileges of going on a 3-week road trip after graduating from one of the top universities like in the country.
Yeah,
like
it's all
what?
privilege.
That's
It's
all privilege.
So much I can't say like, oh, I made it here to
Yes.
this road trip. It's like I am literally wearing a nice sweater that my future mother-in-law bought me. Like I'm like,
and being a multiracial individual has come with its challenges that we don't know what that's going to look like for our children.
it's definitely from a personal identity perspective is confusing as hell.
Yeah.
Of like, how do I identify myself? And again, being from a city like LA, it's more normal. So it's like, okay, like this is a multiracial city, multicultural city. And so it's a little bit easier, which is why I think it's really important that we raise our kids in LA as well.
Yeah.
But there's still a lot of backwards thinking in terms of even just interracial marriage.
I mean, that was
like,
the first thing people would say to us when we were in like high school. Like, oh my God, your kids are gonna be so cute. I'm like, ew, stop fetishizing my children.
Well, and
I'm a child.
So we went to different high schools.
We did.
And people, when I was a freshman in high school, it was crazy that Marcel and I had been together for one whole year. Everyone was like, no way. That's like all people knew about me because I was kind of weird and didn't speak a lot.
They're like, oh my God, you're dating that black
That
girl.
black girl, and because Marcel's at a different school, like people don't even know her name. They just call her that black girl.
Mm-hmm.
And that was, I went to high school in the Valley, which is not where I grew up. The Valley is a very different space in Los Angeles County. Over the mountains.
I was like, I feel like maybe not getting into that.
No, I'm not going to get
nuance.
into it now. But just that experience and like that kind of people viewing us as like, she black, you white. Crazy.
Which is like
Like,
not it at all.
I'm like, it is 2012. Like, what is happening? And now 10 years later, here we are. And there's still senators, I think, was that from Idaho? Iowa, maybe? One of the I states.
Who was like, I'm
recently.
gonna like reverse loving.
Yeah, he thinks that interracial marriage should be left up to the states.
And I'm
Like-
yeah. I would not exist if it weren't for Loving versus Virginia. Straight up.
Technically, my mom's parents shouldn't have been able to get married either.
What a time.
What a time.
So yeah.
But here we are.
Multiracial existence. It's messy.
We exist.
And
It's
obviously
weird.
Stevie's multiracial experience is very different than my multiracial experience.
It's very complex, all the differences in what you define as multiracial and how other people identify you. It's almost like a very, I was almost going to drop an F-bomb, but I feel like we just stray away from those, but it's a very screwed up version of pick your own adventure.
Definitely.
In terms of how you want to approach your individual identity
Exactly.
as a multiracial human being.
Because I still very strongly identify as a black woman. And that is something that has shaped my existence. It's shaped the way I see the world in a way that, and so much of my experience has been shaped by, for, and with like the existence of being a black woman. That's something that's very important to me. And it's a lot more nuanced than that, where I think gender is dumb and multiracialism exists, and living in that gray area is kind of just us in a nutshell.
It doesn't need to be all
Labeled
these
and
boxes.
boxed and yeah.
And it's weird now we're in an era with things like 23andMe where it's like I can break
See,
down
yeah.
percentage-wise and based on phenotype, like what I scientifically am. And that
It's so weird.
It's really cool in some ways, and it opens a whole new can of problems
Yes.
socially in terms of how people choose to present themselves and identify and box us all in. In some ways, it's a very kind of, it can be very reductionist.
But talking about
Yeah.
the next generation of multiracial children, like my map for 23andMe is already like 90% of the way there.
Marcella's got a
like
full
I
rainbow.
all lit up, and Stevie's is all lit up. Of eventually, everybody's is gonna be all lit up, you know?
Yeah, in
and
the
that's
next-
pretty sick.
In the next couple centuries, probably towards the end of this, I mean, the next couple generations, but in the next couple centuries for sure.
Definitely.
Like it's gonna, and we have like the old school identity of like, let's stay homogenous, and different countries across the planet have that mentality of like, let's keep our borders tight. And speaking of places that wants to keep their borders
We're
tight,
not getting into politics.
no, but just
But the cultural
distribution,
shift,
yeah,
yes, the cultural shift
yeah.
that has to happen for all of the multiracial children that are coming in the next generations has to be huge.
Yeah, we have ghee in the back of our car right now that we're using to cook, and like,
Even the dinner we made last night. So we went to Trader Joe's, and I was planning this whole thing of how to make. We were gonna make rice and beans, and I got these shrimp from Trader Joe's. They were frozen. We were like, sick, it's gonna thaw, but blah 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 blah. So we got to the campsite and didn't have a can opener for our can of beans, and said, "Oop, we got to pivot." And so we had gotten this.
you're making a left on the 93 north.
That's cool. We were on the 93 for 300 miles yesterday.
Dinner last night.
Dinner last night, yeah. So we had miso soup ramen that I then put Argentinian spiced shrimp into with ghee.
Chalice salmon.
We're getting there. But this weird cultural mash of foods was so funny. We love fusion food.
And fusion food. Ooh.
Food.
Check out the Los Angeles food list on riddickandgray.com.
Love food.
Good plug. Good tangent. But we went into where we first started this episode, that little shop in this random
had
for us.
So much cool food.
They had
rice paper, all the ramen that we eat at home. Like, it was crazy.
It was all of the, like, I guess specific, like, more, I guess you could say, like, LA, like, ooh, I like different cultures kind of food. We were also shooketh because we walked into both the gas station and this little corner store and saw Black people. And we weren't expecting to see that in the middle of Idaho. Talking about multiracial identity, I could put money that those Black people did not recognize me as a Black person. Like, it was just all kinds of weird and all kinds of intercultural and all kinds of watching from a third-party view of the world trying to identify Marcella is sad sometimes and hilarious at other times.
Because we were standing outside filling up the gas station. I said, I'm not moving anywhere because there was this whole little crowd of
people that were staring at us.
I said, I'm not going to go anywhere right now. Went and walked the dog loop back, but then to walk into the store and I was like, what? And their presence made me feel more comfortable as a human, but they were just as confused by me as I was by them. And just that whole cultural interaction and experience was so cool. So cool. I'll take that any day.
It was something huge on Semester at Sea where in every country, Marcella was placed in a completely different box by the locals, depending on where we were.
Yes.
And it was something that we were able to see cross-continentally on four continents.
4?
Yeah, 4 continents in 14 countries.
Something like that.
And that being just one aspect of our experience.
People just not knowing what the hell to do with me.
It was quite, I'll put it at the word interesting, which I use fairly often, but that is a good place to use that word. We're at...
This is East Idaho. Is this salmon?
I don't know. We're in National Forest information ahead, so we haven't even entered the National Forest that we said you were going to see. We completely goofed you. Sorry for lying to your face, but I think we might have to stop the episode here.
Yeah.
And I think we had a great time.
Going through this last little... Oh, this is Chalice.
This is Chalice. Sweet. We're on...
The city of Chalice is where we'll say goodbye.
Yes.
And figure out how to not be lost the rest of the time.
For being on the road with us today. Here is the sign
for
the Salmon Chalice National Forest. Might be. Here we are, the Salmon Chalice National Forest. Welcome to the ending of our episode.
Thanks for being on the road with us today.
Talk soon, maybe. Not talk. Leave some stuff in the comments, if there are a comment section where you're watching or listening, and read all the research and cool history stuff that we put in the description, because it's all important, it's all really cool, and it will make the viewing experience a lot more fun, and so we can all learn things together.